For many years, games have been a big business, and they still are today. In 2012, the game industry had a total turnover of 256 million euros, selling a staggering number of 6.7 million games. This sounds like an extremely large number, but really this is the result of a decrease of 17% compared to the previous year. In 2013, the same number dropped again with 13.8%. One of the main reasons for this decline is piracy. So what does the future of the game industry look like? Let's have a look, shall we? Dino Dini also has previous experience in the game industry. He shares his stories with us.
So yes, going back to the days of the home computer when people at school, children at school were actually making their own games and so on, piracy was already an issue. There were also companies making games, of course, but what would happen is that someone would buy the game and then they would copy it and then they distribute it to all the children at the schools, in the playgrounds and so on. And so piracy has been an issue right from day one. And that's where things were tried in regards to copy protection. Sometimes they would release games that you would need to enter in a code from some kind of page or a disk with a wheel in it that, to create a code that you would have to type in to avoid being able to just duplicate the games in the playground. And of course the hackers came in, they would hack the game so that they would work without these codes. Just so that people could play the games for free. And this is right from the very beginning, it's always been an issue.
Brian Buchan has a lot of experience in the game industry. He's here to tell us more.
Oh yes, in the beginning piracy was a problem because we really had to fear illegal copying. Because copying of tapes, copying of discs, copying of cartridges, this was a big business, this was production. And people would go out to shops and they would buy games. 30, 40 euros, pounds, and they could get the pirate copies for free or a few cents, wherever it was. It was a problem, and that revenue disappeared. The people who made legitimate cartridges didn't get their money, so it was a big problem. But there's no medium now. There's no medium to copy. There's no medium to actually make. So therefore, there's no shelf to produce the revenue that these developers used to have. It's all download now.
There are gamers who are still buying actual games and are happy to spend money on it. The prices might seem steep to some, but game production is not a cheap business.
Making money in the games industry. I've experienced that in different levels. The insecurity of a regular job is not always as good as it should be, but I used to make money doing that. But as a contract programmer, I usually would do work for a fee and or royalties. And I very, very, very rarely saw royalties. So I used to be more focused on the fee. And the piracy affected my royalties. I know for a fact that some of my games that I was on royalties sold very well. I saw the sales figures. But I also know that they were pirated. And I didn't get a penny for any of those pirate copies. So in that sense, I was affected. And I could have been considerably richer. But, there's no way to tell how much richer. But piracy affected me in that sense. Certainly, I would have made more money with some of the games that I wrote when I had a royalty deal.
Students from the NHTV in Breda studying game development are working hard on creating games for the future. You would expect these gamers to have a strong opinion about piracy, but surprisingly enough, 88% of those questioned by us admitted to downloading themselves. How is this affecting the industry? Dragan Blom, the owner of 4 games in Breda, tells us more.
Je merkt wel dat de crisis is, om het zo maar te zeggen. Je merkt gewoon dat de mensen die normaal gesproken gewoon eventjes een spelletje kopen, dat die wat meer wegblijven. Maar de echte gamer, de hardcore gamer, die blijft gewoon komen als er nieuwe releases zijn. Dus je merkt wel een verschuiving in het casual gedeelte, ja.
Although some game stores in the Netherlands have gone out of business because of the effect of piracy, 4 Games has managed to keep its head above water.
Ja, dat is wel grappig dat je het daarover hebt, want het hele thema illegaal downloaden, dat gaat een beetje aan me voorbij. Ik heb het idee dat het niet meer van vandaag de dag is. En dat je hebt zo'n breed prijsbereik, zeg maar, tegenwoordig met games, dat je voor €1 al een game hebt op je iPad, bij wijze van spreken, tot en met €100 voor de special editions. Dus het dampt een beetje het illegale downloaden in, denk ik. Persoonlijk hoor. Ja. Nee, als ik het moet vergelijken met vroeger, en dan heb ik het echt over de eind jaren 90, in PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 tijdperk, toen was het wel echt een hot issue. Maar vandaag de dag heb ik niet het idee dat het heel erg leeft. In ieder geval niet in die maat als dat het toen deed.
Game stores are still earning money, but how much money goes into the actual production of a game? Let's talk figures.
The problem is that making a game it takes a lot of effort, and if you really want to have games with a kind of AAA look and feel to them, takes an awful lot of money. May not be realised exactly how big the budgets can get. When you take Grand Theft Auto, the last incarnation, I think the development budget on that was a quarter of a billion. Sorry, the numbers have just got crazy, like 250 million, which somebody had to pay for before the game even was released. I think you can understand that then people want to get their money back.
Seemingly, there are jobs available even with the threat of piracy. But are the students worried about their future career?
No, because I think piracy is not a piracy problem. Piracy is a distribution problem. It's a service problem. Because when people talk about piracy, people don't necessarily understand that really people pirate because it's easy to pirate, and people pirate because they don't necessarily understand the worth of these entertainment products. So I think if you provide the service, for example, we have digital distribution, so stuff like for games you have Steam, for TV shows you have Netflix, and it makes it so much more easier to just basically, I can just go on Netflix and just watch, like hundreds of shows right now rather than doing work or anything like that, or I can just go on Steam and play this game, which I've never heard of. And that's far, far easier than going to the internet, like downloading it, waiting for it to download, making sure it works, and all of these kind of things, and solving these problems yourself.
I think if you want some kind of positive message on this, games are not going anywhere. It's part of our culture, and they're going to stay. But really what needs to be worked out is how it can be sustainable. And that's the real issue.
Yeah, there's always a future for gamers and game developers, but it's a different future. We have to adapt.
It's a bit like saying I want to be a rock star, isn't it? Doesn't mean we shouldn't try to be rock stars, but we have to do it with our eyes open and realise what it really means.
So piracy is a severe threat to the industry, but it's not really something new. We've been dealing with piracy for as long as we're playing and producing games. So the future of the game industry can be considered quite unpredictable. And in order to survive, we need to learn to adapt to the new trends that emerge over the course of time. However, if piracy cannot be stopped, there's always a chance to use it to the advantage of the industry itself, since there are many businesses out there struggling to try and keep their heads above the water. So let's be supportive and think twice before becoming pirates sailing the waters of the World Wide Web.